I don't see my brother Danny here, so I guess we're safe to get started. First of all, thank you all so much for coming out today for this very, very important announcement. And I want to just take a moment and thank everyone here at Goodwin College. As a resident of the town of East Hartford, I can't think of a better place to certainly hold this event, and we're honored that you guys have opened up your doors once again. Mark and Todd, thank you very much. This is just a huge opportunity for the town of East Hartford. I can't thank you enough for your continued progress and your success here at Goodwin as it continues to grow and grow and grow. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to make a formal announcement on William Tong's campaign. I met William 4 years ago in the General Assembly as a freshman legislator, and William immediately took me under his wing, and I couldn't be more grateful for that. He's been a tremendous friend of mine and a real leader in the House of Representatives. We talked a little bit about this effort in running for U.S. Senate and what a monumental task it was, but I knew that someone with William's courage and his conviction and his stalwart look and what he wants to do for the people in the state of Connecticut was going to be his driving support. And he's talked about his upbringing. I had the great fortune to meet his family. And just fantastic parents, wonderful wife and sisters. I joked a little bit. One of the reasons why I got behind him was, like my wife, his mom's name is Nancy, and he's got a sister like me, Mary Lou. So it was an easy one. So it was great. It's been a great run. I think William has really done a fantastic job with his effort and his campaign. This is somewhat bittersweet because we all know if you're in this game, you're always in it to win. You pour your heart and soul and energy and do the very best you can and kept everything above board. But at some point, you have to make a decision, and a tough decision. And I say it's bittersweet from that perspective on William's part, but again, I get my friend back in the House of Representatives, we hope.
Yes.
And on for a bigger and brighter future for the state of Connecticut, someone a little closer to home that will really continue to work hard for us here in the State House. And I'm proud to call this man my friend. Now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our next speaker, who really needs no introduction on this side of the river, Lieutenant Governor Nancy Wyman.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. You know, kind of interesting that you use the word bittersweet, and I was going to start that also. You know, we are very fortunate in the state, and especially in this race. We've had two very, very powerful men who I think are so qualified to take this position as U.S. Senator. William has made a decision not to take the position, not to run any further. And with his, you know, I've been very fortunate of knowing him for quite a few years, and I always thought it was nice for him to have a mother named Nancy. I'd just be the Jewish mother. William. Yeah, that's right. And you know what? William has worked very, very hard, and he has been out all over the place. And I got to tell you that this is, I think, just another beginning for him. This is not the end. This is just a different beginning for William. You will see him out a lot more. I really believe that this is a start of looking to see what's going to be out there, and but spending some time with those three beautiful kids that are here right now. But William, I have to tell you, we are so proud of you, and I thank you very, very much for being out there, doing what you needed to do. And it's also going to be a little bit easier for me, too, because you're going to be in the House again, even though I get only into the Senate. But we really do think that you've done an unbelievable job. And today I am glad to be able to throw my support to Chris Murphy. Chris also had served in the House, served in the State Senate, and served in now as our congressman from the 5th Congressional District. He and William are both young men who have a great future. But I know Chris's voice will be strong and loud for the people of the state. And all I have to say to both of you is thank you. Thank you so much for putting Connecticut people first. God bless you all. And now it's my opportunity to introduce the guy that we all kind of know around, at least for me, a man who I think has been a great leader for our state of Connecticut, and one of my partners, Dan Malloy.
Thank you. Thank you. So I am going to introduce William Tong in just a few seconds. I do want to say that I've known William for a long time, longer than the most people in the room, not all. He has been a friend, and I think I've been a friend to him. He is a great human being, has a very fine mind, a good public service instinct. When he told me he wanted to take this run at the Senate, I certainly understood. I gave him some words of advice. He listened to some of them. And I have to tell you how proud I am of the race that he ran. Raised a lot of money, talked about issues, got out and met a lot of people. And quite frankly, I haven't met a person from a Democratic town committee that heard William speak about issues, speak about his family, speak about the history of that family, that was not extremely impressed. Now, I want William to continue in public service. There comes a time when people have to make a decision about a race like the one that he's been involved in for the Senate. I have urged him to run for re-election to the House. I want him in the House. We need him in the House. And then, quite frankly, I want him to continue to play a big part of Connecticut's future. I think he's a great talent, a great person. And so I look forward to working with William Tong and having a friendship with his wife, and all of his family for years to come. So I just want you to know, William, how proud I am of everything you've accomplished. As a result of everything else, I've made a decision, and that is to support my friend, Congressman Murphy, who is an outstanding public servant in his own right. We have known each other for a number of years, worked together for a number of years. His first run at Congress and my first run at governor overlapped. I don't resent that he won and I lost, but we got to know each other that year and continuing ever since. I am happy to endorse Chris Murphy. I think he has all of the skill set necessary to continue to be an effective member of our representatives in Washington, our two senators and our congresspeople. There will be no, learning curve. He's there. He's got the relationships. I know from all of the trips that I make to Washington, and I make a lot of them, arguing the case of the people of Connecticut, I know, based on discussions that I've had with senators and with congresspeople, with bureaucrats within various departments, how highly they think about his integrity, his intellect, his willingness to be forthcoming, and quite frankly, I frequently hear of his willingness to argue the case of the people of Connecticut. So I look forward to calling Congressman Murphy, Senator Murphy, in the not too distant future. And I urge, and I want to be very specific here. I urge that the delegates to the state convention support his candidacy as the best chance that we have to elect a Democratic senator in this go-round. Let's be honest. We know at least one candidate will throw at least $50 million at this opportunity. She did it before. She'll do it again. I know that Chris Murphy has what it takes to win that race. And he has proven that ability time and time again in his race for the House, in his race for the state Senate, in a race for Congress that nobody except just a handful of us thought that he could win. And he has what it takes to make sure that Connecticut has a Democratic senator going forth. But now I'd like to introduce my very good and dear friend, a greatly accomplished public servant, and someone who has a great future, and that's William Tong.
Thank you all for being here this morning. I'd like to invite my wife, Liz, and our son, Alexander. We call him Sasha. He's going to be the boy with the girl's name. And Eleanor and Penelope, please come on up. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here. Today, I'm here to announce that I will no longer be a candidate for the United States Senate. After a year in this race, these are hard words to say. But I woke up this morning grateful. I'm grateful for the tremendous opportunity few people have had to run for the United States Senate in the state of my birth. I'm grateful to the people of Connecticut, especially the thousands of convention and primary voters I've spoken to who welcome me into their cities and towns, into their Democratic town committees, and in many cases their homes and their hearts. I want to thank Representative Larson, Representative Jenga, Representative O'Brien, who are with me today. Also, great supporters. Butch Lewis is here, Jim Williams, Wanting Zhang. Thank you all for standing with me and my supporters and contributors across the nation. 1,700 people invested more than $1 million in this campaign, and I'm grateful that they stood with me against some pretty difficult odds. I think we surprised a lot of people. We accomplished quite a bit in this past year. I personally spoke to those thousands of primary and convention delegates. We built a strong and lasting foundation across the state. We visited over 90 Democratic town committees, attended hundreds of community and political events, and competed in 4 debates and several other forums. The JFK Policy Center just awarded us and our campaign the coveted A rating for the strength of our policy decisions. I'm one of only 15 U.S. Senate candidates across the country to receive that honor this year. This was my first statewide campaign. I do not expect it will be my last.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thanks to give. I want to thank my hardworking and dedicated team, my campaign manager, Mark Bradley. Hey. I know, you're nervous. Me too. Me too. My staff here today, Mary Tong, who happens to be my sister, Peter Fromson and Will Sherry, and the many other volunteers and campaign workers who fought hard day and night for more than a year. I want to thank my mentor, the governor of this state, for your guidance and your encouragement since I first moved to Stamford. I want to thank both you and Lieutenant Governor Wyman for standing with me today and for showing me by your example how to serve well in this state and how to run a statewide campaign with dignity and respect for my competitors and the constituents we serve. I'm grateful above all for Liz, who's standing right here. Liz gave birth to Sasha this year during this campaign. That is a very difficult thing to handle on your own. I have asked her for too much this year, more than I ever had a right to ask. And it is only because of her sacrifices that I can stand here today. I want to thank you, Governor, for holding Sasha. There you go. I want to thank Aunt Penelope and Eleanor, and I look forward to teaching you to fish this summer in the Mianus River.
Can we go now?
Let me finish. Shh, quiet. I woke up this morning grateful and also with a tremendous amount of confidence. You know, I've talked a lot about confidence in this campaign. I'm confident that Liz and I will be able to pay our mortgage, that we'll be able to make a living and send our kids to good schools. That confidence comes from 2 people. Addie and Nancy Tong. Thousands of people across this state now know the story of Addie Tong. How he came to Bloomfield, Connecticut with just 57 cents in his pocket. Came here to cook Chinese food. I wasn't going to do this. Because they made incredible sacrifices for me, their son was able to dream things and will continue to dream things they never imagined. I ran for the Senate because we need to get that confidence back in this country. I wanted to show people that the American dream still lives here in Connecticut and across the country. I know because I'm living it. We proved to people that in just one generation, you can still go from being the son of a cook in a Chinese restaurant to the United States Senate. We inspired people to believe again in our shared dream and to fight like we've never fought for it before. I am going to continue this fight in the General Assembly, and will be proud to run again for state representative. It has been my honor to serve the people of the 147th District in Stamford and New Canaan and soon Darien. I look forward to continuing on as the chair of the Banks Committee, to continuing my work to help people stay in their homes, to keep our families safe, to help create jobs across Connecticut. Now, I've talked a lot about my story in this race, but this campaign was never about me. My story is just a way to talk about the working people in this state, about the challenges that we face. It's a way to lay out a vision to get us back to where we ought to be. This campaign was for the 150,000 people in this state who are unemployed, 100,000 families that are going to go to bed tonight in a home that's underwater, and the families and the children who fight to overcome the achievement gap here in Connecticut. This was a campaign to rebuild their dreams and to build a dream we all can live. But nobody can do this alone. I'm here today because I am ever mindful that I am part of something greater, a greater commitment all of us share. And I'm proud to say I'm part of a team. I'm proud, more than ever, to be a Democrat. Throughout their careers, the governor and lieutenant governor have done what is best for our state and our nation and our party. We all believe that electing a strong Democrat to the United States Senate is what's best for our state and our country. In that spirit, I will continue to work hard in this campaign, not as a candidate, but as a member of that team. Today, I am proud to announce that Team Tong is merging with Team Murphy. And I am proud to endorse my good friend, Chris Murphy, for the United States Senate and to join his team. I've learned a lot about Chris in this campaign. We were born in the same year. We're both sons of this state, and we love it very much. I've learned that he has the same fight and the same grit, the same commitment to working people like my parents, like my mom and my dad. Every time I see Chris at a debate or a campaign event, I have the opportunity to shake his hand, look in his eyes, and take his measure. And I know that he has the heart and the backbone and the integrity to fight for all of us in the United States Senate. Chris and Kathy and Liz and I, we look forward together from the same perspective, the same position. We're both couples, both families. We're trying to raise young families here in Connecticut. I am proud to call Chris my friend, and I will be prouder still to call him my senator. Chris Murphy.
Thank you. Good job, guys. Well done. William, I can't tell you how much your support means to me. The governor has said it all. You ran a great race. And you knew that this was a state that needed a boost of confidence. You knew that people in Connecticut needed to realize that the American dream was still alive. And I know your campaign isn't ending up in the way that you had intended, but you succeeded in setting out in what you wanted to do. You succeeded in making thousands of Democrats and voters from all across this state understand that the impossible is never impossible. And I think over the course of the last year, you have given this state a shot in the arm, a boost of confidence that we needed. To Governor Malloy and to Lieutenant Governor Wyman, can't tell you how much your support means to me. For a decade, whether it was from the state legislature or from the United States Congress, I watched as this state coasted from year to year without any visionary or passionate economic leadership from the governor's office. And that changed when you came to office. You've challenged the state to believe that our best days are ahead of us, that we can be a leader in creating high-tech jobs, that we can once again reclaim our place as the best place to educate a child or a college student in the nation, that we can balance our budget without coming after the most vulnerable amongst us. And I hope that I've been a partner in that work in the United States Congress, and I can't wait to be able to elevate my voice as part of this partnership in the United States Senate. But make no mistake about it, we have a lot of work to do, a lot of work that's ahead of us. And as I have listened to William tell his story, his moving story about his family's claim on the American dream, I realize that our motivations for running for office aren't that different. Because I tell a similar story. I tell a story about what my mother means to me and what my kids mean to me. I talk about the fact that I'm standing here, as my mother always reminds me, one generation removed from poverty. That she grew up in the housing projects of New Britain, Connecticut, and she understood that there was a deal in place. That if she worked hard and she played by the rules, that her government, her community, was going to wrap its hands around her to make sure that she could succeed. Public housing, public education, college loans, a job across the street for her father through federal contracts. And I wonder about whether or not I can teach my kids, my two boys, that dream, that deal is still alive today. And I know what the answer is if we elect a Republican to the United States Senate from Connecticut. I know that Republican control of the United States Senate will tear that deal apart, such that little girls growing up in the housing projects of New Britain or little boys working in Chinese restaurants across this state won't have the same shot that my mother did or that William's parents did. And so I couldn't be prouder to go out and talk about the choice that faces voters today with Governor Malloy, with Lieutenant Governor Wyman, and with William Tong. We're going to go out there and tell people that there is no way for this country to succeed unless we invest and reinvest in education and job training in public housing. That there's no way for people to be able to have the economic mobility that William's family and my family had unless we have a fair tax code that advantages the middle class and the poor, not just the wealthy. And I'm going to go out there and tell people that our imperative is to elect a United States Senator that understands that that partnership between individual will and community investment is the reason why Dan Malloy and Nancy Wyman and William Tong and myself are standing here today, and it's going to be the reason why this country succeeds going forward. Now, as the governor said, we've got a fight ahead of us. No matter who the Republican candidate is going to be, we are going to be dramatically outspent in this race. Whether it be from one millionaire's bank account or from a dozen super PACs spending money here in Connecticut. But I'm confident that the team that we are assembling, the thousands of Democrats that have signed up to support our campaign, now led by our two states' leading Democrats and one of the great visionary voices for this state, that we're going to be able to pull this thing off, win this race, and win it the right way. William, thank you so much for your support. Governor Malloy, Lieutenant Governor Wyman, I look forward to fighting the fight over the next 6 months alongside you and then having a chance to do it for 6 years thereafter. Thank you very much to all of you. Yeah, we'd be happy to take a few questions.
William, would you, I know some of the advice I'm sure was private, but can you give us a general sense of the advice you received from Governor Malloy as you got in, as you stayed in, and then as you got out?
The governor has always been open with me and generous with his counsel and guidance. I remember a conversation early on, and he just explained to me how tough it is to get across the state, to get to those nearly 100 Democratic town committees, not to see your family. And I think what he was focused on was preparing me for that sacrifice. It was a lot worse than you had described.
It was a lot worse than you heard.
That too. And so I'm grateful for that. You know, he and I spoke about where this race is and where it's going. And for us, for me, for the governor and lieutenant governor, our priority is electing a United States senator from Connecticut who is a Democrat and reflects our values. And we all believe that Chris Murphy gives us the best chance of doing that. I feel that I could have gone on and continued to compete, but that in the best interests of our country and our state and our party, it was important for me to step aside right now and to do what's best for our team.
William, during the campaign, you shared some criticisms of Congressman Murphy with Susan Weissowitz. You both criticized his links to Wall Street. You criticized his choice of a chief of staff. Why are you here today endorsing Chris as opposed to perhaps backing Susan?
Look, Chris and I think we just hit on this earlier. And I did call Susan Weissowitz earlier this morning, and I took the time to explain it to her. Chris and I see our future from a very similar perspective. You know, he's got how old is Ryder now?
3 and 6 months.
3. And Owen too. And you know, we have the same priorities. We're looking at this whole deal the same way. And what we're fighting for is the same opportunity, not just that Chris's mom had or my parents had, but that he and I have had. And so as we move forward, I think we're really on the same page. And that's why I'm endorsing Chris. I think he and I, both have a lot of work to do, but I have tremendous confidence in Chris's leadership and that he's focused on the right things, and that's making sure that those people I talked about, those 150,000 people who are unemployed, get a chance to get back to work, and that we work on the housing crisis and education and small businesses.
What sort of delegate support do you have, and are you delivering those to Chris Murphy?
I think that we were very strong, and I was confident going into the convention that we would be able to pull it off. But it was always an uphill battle for us. It was going to be tough. It would have been a real fight. And
To pull off a primary qualification, or
to pull off a strong performance at the convention and to move on. But I'm not going to speak for the delegates out there. They're going to make their own decision. I'm here to speak on my own behalf and to personally endorse Chris Murphy.
So does that mean that you will work the floor on his behalf?
Yes, definitely. I have offered to Chris, I said it very sincerely, that I am looking forward to being a part of his team. As some of you know, I was a surrogate for our governor during both of his races. I was a surrogate for the president in the primaries, and I look forward to doing the same thing for Chris and getting out there. I think two of us working on the same team and fighting for the same thing is going to be a pretty potent combination.
Governor, what advice would you have for Susan Weissowitz?
Three of us.
Hey, listen, who am I to give another candidate advice? I've been in those shoes. I suppose what I would say is this race is going to be tough enough. I think we should get behind a candidate. I think we should support the candidate. Obviously, Congressman Murphy has the skill set, the relationships, the knowledge, and quite frankly, one hell of a proven track record of pulling off a difficult election after difficult election after difficult election. So, I would hope that the delegates get behind Congressman Murphy. I would hope that any other candidates get behind Congressman Murphy, and that would be the advice that I would offer.
Can you describe why you chose today to make this endorsement, other than perhaps staying out of it for a while?
Because I couldn't do it on Friday.
Well, you know what I mean. After the convention,
it happens. I did want to do it on Friday, but in a longer term, listen. William Tong's a good friend of mine, and Congressman Murphy's a good friend of mine. I believe that they had a good discussion, but I thought it was time. I thought when William and I had some discussions over the last weeks or months. I always made it clear that you got to set targets for yourself. You got to measure yourself by whether you're meeting those targets. You got to make a decision. Once he made the decision to get out of the race and to endorse Congressman Murphy, I had a quick conversation with my partner, and she was of the same mind that I was, and we decided to all jump together.
It sounds like you'd like not to see a primary. Are you worried that a primary will...
Well, listen, as a guy who's been involved in a couple of primaries, what I would say to you is, and I think that perhaps what I just said about William's situation is the right one. I think you set targets, and clearly when a candidate entered a race fully expecting to be the nominee of the party, and that's not going to happen, then you have to assess where you are. And then when you talk about fundraising and you're not where you want to be, then you really need to put that into your consideration. And so, listen, anybody can run a primary, but at some point you have to make a decision, particularly when we're looking at someone who's capable of spending $50 million or more in smackdown money, that perhaps it makes sense for everyone to evaluate the position they're in.
But what kind of money was that?
Smackdown money. That's how they make their money. Smackdowns.
Money didn't talk in your race.
What's that?
I mean, money didn't talk in your race. So
nobody spent $50 million. Let's be very clear. Absolutely, but nobody spent $50 million or more. Listen, I want a Democratic senator. Period. Let's be very clear. I want a Democratic senator. This guy can win. That's the reality. So every delegate across the state needs to make a calculation. There is clearly somebody who can win this race, who can raise the money, who can build the relationships, who can garner the delegates, all of the things that you measure a candidate by, right? And it is Mr. Murphy. I'll just compare it to my own situation. Going into 2 conventions, I was either ahead or dead even. And money, I was either darn close or ahead. And on the fundraising side. That's a very different situation than some people find themselves in, and I just hope they take that into consideration.
Are you discounting that Susan Weisswitz is one statewide?
No, I'm not discounting at all. Not discounting at all. All I'm saying is you set certain goals for it. My basic advice whenever somebody comes to talk to me about running for office is set targets. Stay in the race as long as you meet those targets, and when you don't meet those targets, then you move on.
Governor, with that said about winning,
Yeah.
there was an opportunity clearly in this race to nominate or to endorse a woman, a minority, something that has not been done in Congress. Is that factored in, or is it really about finding the right person? I mean, there was an opportunity here. Even Chris Murphy, I think, has talked about supporting women and those causes.
I've taken a look at who's supporting Chris, his donors. He's got a lot of women donors. We've got a lot of women supporters. In fact...
yeah, that's me.
Listen, I want to win this race. I want to win it. I think the United States, if you look at what Congressman Ryan and presidential candidate Romney are talking about doing to this country, right, and to women specifically, and this war on women that the Republican Party has been waging. We need to make sure that we have Democrats in the seats of the United States Senate, and I absolutely 100% believe that Chris Murphy is the best candidate to represent the Democratic Party. And I urge Democrats throughout the state to support his candidacy. I urge all the delegates who are persuadable to make that decision. So that's it for me. I think I will take a few questions on other matters, but out in the hallway, is that where we're going to do it? But I'm only going to take a few questions because it really is about William's decision, about Nancy's decision, about my decision, and about Chris's candidacy. So thank you very much. Okay.